you are an enemy. Now, I'm not talking about sports rivalries, which, it can feel like an athletic contest. They're between enemies. Like, one team playing another team in baseball or softball or football, like MSU versus University of Michigan later this month. Go green. In sports rivalries, it's really easy to make the opposing side an enemy. Did I mention? Go green. I'm talking today, though, about real enemies. You live in the United States, and because of that, I guarantee you are someone's enemy, a real enemy. You are an enemy. How does knowing that sit with you? And my guess is that you're at all like me. I prefer not to think about being someone's enemy. I'm a decent, hardworking guy who tries to be loving and just. I don't like to think about being someone's enemy. And that's a luxury afforded to many Americans, in that we can focus on what's happening around us in the United States and to a large extent ignore what's happening in the rest of the world. That's certainly a luxury that's afforded to me as a white, straight man here in the United States. To think about being someone's enemy is to be reminded of all the power that I have. Now, as we talk about enemies today, I want to remind you that you have power. You have influence. Power is the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. And as we look across the globe, even here in the United States, you will find someone with less power than you. So just for a moment today, as we begin to talk about enemies, let me remind you, all of you, that you are an enemy. As we contemplate that truth, let me reassure you. Let me reassure you as an enemy of someone else. And let me reassure the person or people who are your enemies that it's okay to have enemies. Like real enemies, not just the people who wear those gross maize and blue colors. Go green. If you get nothing from what I say today, I want you to remember the provocative statement, this provocative statement that it's okay to have enemies. I get this idea of it being okay to have enemies from Jesus. Now, Jesus was born and lived in first century Palestine. Jesus was a Jewish person, fully human, fully God, who was formed within a long and terrible history of the occupation of Judea. And Jesus inherited the constant threat of annihilation of the Jewish people that still persists today. And to the people of that era and to us today, Jesus issued this challenge in the Sermon on the Mount. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. The challenge of this command of Jesus to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute or curse you is that Jesus assumes real violence, real degradation, and real destruction. Jesus isn't talking about misunderstandings here. Jesus isn't talking about sports rivalries. Go green. These are very real, very dangerous enemies. And Jesus issues a call to love those who have the power to destroy others. We're on the eve of a contentious election. We are deeply divided as a country. Roughly half our country is going to be upset with the election outcome. Now, you might not think of someone who votes differently than you as an enemy, but I will guarantee there is someone from the opposite side who views you as an enemy. Let me repeat that. You might not think of someone who votes differently than you as an enemy, but I will guarantee there is someone from the opposite side who views you as an enemy, no matter what side you're on. So let's pause a moment and reflect on this idea of being an enemy and having enemies. Here's our first question today for discussion. Reflect on what it means for you to be someone's enemy. How does that sit with you? What do you think about that? Let's take a moment and talk about it.